Hello, everyone. Today we have Sandeep Sharma with us, and I'm going to run through his story. We're going to talk a lot about his journey from India to New Zealand. He went to New Zealand on a student visa, and then what's his journey been so far? And he's been pretty successful in New Zealand, and that's something that we're going to cover as well. Just to give you a brief idea about Sandeep. So Sandeep here, he came to New Zealand on a student visa way back in 2014. He studied his master's degree at the University of Canterbury. On completion of his studies, he then started working with University of Canterbury, and in the last recent years he's been leading some very important strategies across trade, diplomacy, education, and business advisory as well. So welcome, Sandeep. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. And if you could just tell us something about what made you choose New Zealand as a study destination, and what were those deciding factors where you chose New Zealand, chose University of Canterbury. So if you could just tell us a bit about that.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here in your office, lovely office, and giving me an opportunity, honestly, to share my story. You captured my story at large quite well in my introduction. But going back to the beginning and answering your question, how did New Zealand come about as a destination for me for pursuing my further education? It honestly happened unplanned, I would say by chance. I was looking at some other popular destinations which most Indian students do, the US, Canada. And in fact, I had zeroed in on few universities in Canada. However, there were some challenges and curveballs that came along the way. And in that process of solving that challenges and problem, I discovered New Zealand. So I was in touch with one of the universities in Canada that had given me an offer letter. One of their managers connected me with an alumni of theirs who was visiting India, just like how I am visiting India right now. I'm in Bombay. He was visiting Bombay at that point of time. He was living in Toronto. And we had a catch up, and he started to share about his journey and life, just like I'm going to do in this podcast. I hadn't even thought about how it's coming back as a full circle. And while we were having that conversation, he just mentioned something that stuck with me. And he's like, Sandeep, do you have a plan B? And I was like, yeah, I've applied to some other Canadian universities as well, and I've offer from them. And he said that, no, what I mean by plan B is like another destination.
Right.
And I had no idea. Yeah. And so he suggested to me that I should have a plan B.
Right.
And he connected me with someone, a gentleman just like you, a genuine person. The gentleman actually invited me to visit a seminar in one of the hotels in Mumbai, where some universities from New Zealand had come to give a presentation about their courses, the program, life in New Zealand. And that's how I actually got introduced to New Zealand universities. And from there on, one thing led to another. I had an opportunity to speak to few universities on those days, but my mind was set on Canada. I just went there because I just wanted to be polite to the person who was kind to me and gave me so much time and offered me free lunch also if I came. So it turned out to be a good introduction, but nothing would change my mind. However, when I went back home, it stayed with me. Those conversations stayed with me, especially the conversation that I had with the representative of University of Canterbury, who later on turned out to be my first supervisor and boss. And then eventually I took his job. He moved to some other market. So that's another story. But I did some research on that very night, which made me more inquisitive about the country and the programs. And I went back with a lot of questions. And from there, the response that started was very different to my experience with some of the other Canadian universities. And then went on, one thing led to another. Yeah.
And then you finally chose that New Zealand was the right place for you.
It felt right. Sometimes you have to really give importance and significance to the intuition that you have. every student, every individuals have that intuition. Sometimes in this noisy Bombay traffic, that intuitions get suppressed somewhere. And if you start listening to that and follow it, probably it'll lead you in a different direction to what you decided, but that could be the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. So if you just go a little behind, way back, what was your background here in Mumbai, and what did you study? Why particularly, did you choose but think of studying abroad?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I was born in Mumbai. I was raised here. Um, my first degree, an undergraduate degree, was in engineering from one of the good colleges in Mumbai, in South Mumbai. After finishing that, I actually joined my father's business in manufacturing as an intern. And I worked with him for first couple of years within different departments, right from shop floor into the office. I worked in various departments, but the department that I enjoyed the most was the sales and marketing, specifically related to international sales and marketing.
Right.
And I got an exposure to foreign buyers and foreign suppliers. I also got an opportunity to travel. So I went to China, I went to Europe for trade fairs. The interactions with foreign buyers stayed with me, made a lot of impression on me, just because I found their way of working quite different from our domestic way of working. Not to say that one is better than the other, but one appealed to me more, and I thought I could learn a lot from that. That raised my inquisitiveness about overseas experience. And in that process of how can I make my how can I get more overseas experience, I got an advice from one of my buyers from Europe in Sweden. There's a small port town called Jönköping that you should do an internship somewhere. So I started out looking for internships, but eventually I chose to do a proper master's program, and that led to then, okay, where from?
Right.
Yeah.
So usually students have this dilemma where should they do a master's degree immediately after completing their bachelor's, or should they gain some work experience and go? So through your journey and through your experiences, do you feel that even though you gained experience under your father, right? Did it help you somewhere down the line, or even after you graduated many years after that? So what was that experience? Did it play a crucial role at any point of time?
Yeah, so I think the experience is the right word. Doesn't matter if you choose to do a master's right after your undergraduate, or you work for a few years and then decide to do your master's. It's about what your life experiences are. If you are someone who's been always proactive about your career, and you've tested your ideas or your dreams or your thoughts through practical experiences, and have now certain that this is the right path for me. For example, what I mean by that is, say I was an engineer, but I chose to study business, which is a very common feature in India, where every engineer has to do an MBA and then you become a technocrat. But overseas, if you're an engineer and then you immediately go on to do a business program, they look at you very in a strange manner that you've actually you have invested your lives for good years, 5 years, in building a technical capability, and now you're just completely giving up and you want to be a manager. That doesn't sit well. So if students, while they're doing their undergraduate program, have tested their ideas that business is what I want to study, but is business what I really want to study or which suits me?
Right.
If they have somehow through their undergraduate learning journey, through internships, through part-time work, through voluntary projects, whether it's within their family, friends, or known people, have got that experience, and now they're very sure this is what I want to do, then they can straight away go to the masters, because they can build some more knowledge on top of what they have already before going into the workforce. And that's totally acceptable. For people who are still unsure, I would strongly suggest then they put a few years into practical work And from there, they decide whether they want to build on their undergraduate degree or they want to build a career into something completely different. Like New Zealand offers something called as conversion masters, and you would know that. Conversion masters, for students who don't know, it's basically a master's in a subject in which you don't have any previous knowledge or qualification within your undergraduate degree. So you can be an engineer and straight go into a Masters of Arts in International Relations and Diplomacy, which eventually I also ended up doing. That's called Conversion Master.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So now tell me, if you were to, go back in time, would you have taken the same course, or could you have opted for something different, knowing where you are right now and what the course that you've done? Has it, positively influenced your career trajectory, and how?
So I don't dwell too much into what I would have done.
Right.
Rather than a view as to what happened to me. Is it still the best thing that could have happened to me? And the answer is yes.
Right.
So eventually my decision, or me not going to Canada and ending up in New Zealand, is something that I would have want me to happen now, today also, if I had the option. If there's a better option than that, I don't know. But from my experience, yes, that's probably the best thing that could have happened to me at that stage, at that age, and at that juncture of my life where I was when I was looking at going overseas.
Correct. Great. So obviously Canada was very popular back then, and even today, like, most students usually think that, oh, Canada is a better place compared to New Zealand. Now, New Zealand is not very popular, I would say, but yeah, there is a considerable amount of attention that it gets, and it deserves as well. So, has through your experiences, did you ever think about whether Canada would have been a better option for you based on what you're doing right now? And, comparing it to New Zealand? Because this is one comparison that always happens between New Zealand and Australia, between New Zealand and Canada. So, what, according to you, worked well for you in New Zealand?
So first thing, something that I know now that I did not know previously is comparing Canada to New Zealand, or New Zealand to Australia, or New Zealand to US is like comparing apples to oranges. For the simple fact that those are big countries with a bigger population, much more universities over there, and the opportunities are different. Not that opportunities are not there in New Zealand. Both countries have those similar opportunities, but they're different. I'd say comparing New Zealand to Ireland would be a better way to compare. Same size population, same number of universities. And the reason why I say that is I understood quite later in my journey is that once you, through your experience, when you've decided this is what I want to do, you should start comparing that the individual country or universities ranking or research or capability in those subject areas, rather than saying that I want to study abroad and I want to go to an Ivy League. Great if you want to study abroad and you qualify for an Ivy League. But if I want to study, say, business in global supply chain, international relations and diplomacy, or business information system, I now need to see within my chosen country what is the university's reputation and research capability. I am aware more of New Zealand education system, so I'll speak on that. In New Zealand, there are 8 universities. All 8 of them are research universities and are public funded, which means that they just not teach, they also research and innovate, and they bring new concepts into their teaching. You have to look at those subject ranking, the reputation of those faculties, because in the end, international education, and this is what I've learned, if you want to just juice it out and sum it into one thing, it is not about global ranking. It is not about the economy and the size of the country. It is not even about the university and how great the campus is. It boils down to one single thing. You sitting in that classroom and your professor in front of you absolutely teleporting, transporting you to another world where you experience the teaching that I experience of a different level and quality. And that is only possible if that particular university and department has that level and high quality academics. It's almost like one of those Bollywood movie. I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but Hrithik Roshan had starred in that movie. I have not watched it fully, but it was all about training people from underprivileged background into qualifying for some sort of a UPSC program.
Super 30.
Super 30. Now, they all they had is a professor who knew and was passionate about it and knowledgeable. And they didn't have those fancy classrooms and air conditioning classrooms, which is part of the other shows like goes on these popular OTT platforms like Quota Factory and stuff like that. That's a different. So all I'm trying to say, when you go to those universities and colleges, the best thing, the only thing that you're buying is the study experience, and that nobody will take from you. Whether it's recession, whether market is red, whether market is black, whatever it is.
Quality of education actually matter. Not
It is the only thing that matters. And I, very unfortunately, I don't know how much things have changed now. I was raised in a schooling system which was based on rote learning, which is memorization of things, which is not an inquiry-based learning, no design thinking, and almost like a cookie cutter sort of a mechanism. I had to retrain my brain to be able to develop a questioning mind, a thinking mind,
inquisitive mind.
absolutely inquisitive mind. The teaching did not happen, it was not one way. Most places say it's a two-way communication, but this was a pure discussion, sometimes leading into an argument, sometimes leading into a heated argument.
Right. So obviously, like I've seen and heard it myself, is that you can give feedback to your professors as well, and they're quite open to accepting that. Comparing it to India, where you might be reprimanded for questioning or asking
Yeah,
questions on their face.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into whether you're not. All I can say in New Zealand, you cannot just give feedback. You can say to your professor point blank, I don't agree with you.
Correct. You can agree to disagree.
You can agree to disagree and you can have a chat, and sometimes you might be right and they'll accept it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is something that a New Zealand education offers. So like,
Absolutely, hands down. At least in my experience at University of Canterbury, I can vouch that this happens because I've done it.
correct. So okay, now tell me, like after you graduated from your course, and how did you find your first job in New Zealand? And was it difficult back then? How did you find it?
So see, my background has been coming from a business family, and the training and the thinking has been slightly different. It's been long-term investment on returns in a period of time and things like that. I pretty much applied that same learning when I was in New Zealand. I made a very conscious decision to not look for part-time work initially. And that was mainly because, as you'd be aware, that the New Zealand immigration system is such that they make sure that you have enough finances to take care of your living expenses for the duration of your program. And you pay your tuition fee upfront so that you don't have the financial load on you, which many students have who probably go to other popular destinations. So I had that cushion. I decided in my first week, sitting in the class and listening to my professors, them sharing the expectations for the term, explaining us how the assessments will work. We will not have one-off exams. We will have series of tests and submissions. So there were 10% allocated to quiz, 10% to 15% in classroom discussion, 20 odd percent for group work, 20 odd percent for individual assignments.
Right.
And the way the submissions and the assignments were done were completely online through a Moodle. That whole process was new for me. And I understood very early on that I have to put all my energy into learning the new system. And that wasn't it. Writing your essays or your thesis required you to learn how to do academic writing. And that's another thing I would really encourage people like you who are helping students so much to also incorporate academic learning in the pre-departure. And I'm happy to come and do talk on that for free, because this is the biggest roadblock for most of the students who don't have those trainings over here. Because I can't just write in New Zealand in my essay that Mr. Jani said so and so. I have to reference it to this podcast, and I have to reference it in a particular order and format. That's called APA referencing or Chicago referencing. So I don't want to digress too much. But I decided very early on that I'm not going to work part-time. I'm going to put all my energy into learning this new system. And eventually, the value that this will bring will get me something or the other. Right. And I stuck to that for 8 months. And I did all the hard work in understanding those systems and also New Zealand culture. How do they speak? Why do they laugh on things that I don't feel like laughing as an Indian? Or why do I laugh on things that they are just staring and keep quiet? It's just like, just learning culture, building in the cultural intelligence. Once I had all of those ammunitions, I went out to secure an internship. And lucky that I actually got offered 2 internships in a span of 48 hours. One was in a manufacturing setup, a chemical engineering company, and one was within the university. So for one, I had to take a bus for half an hour, and the other because I was living so close on campus actually, that I had to just walk. So I chose the internship at the International Relations Office at the University of Canterbury.
So that's how you found your first.
That's how my internship gave me, it was part of my program also. Eventually, I would have done an internship somewhere, but that led to the next opportunity, which led to an opportunity after that I saw on.
According to you, does New Zealand provide you with opportunities that you would find globally, in the sense that, criticism about New Zealand where they say that, okay, since it's a small economy, there are not many jobs, the standard of living is high, and there are people who complain about, these things. Now, looking at the larger picture, or, if you have a wider perspective of things, do you really think that New Zealand is a good place to start your career, or, start your family, and does it have some long-term benefits staying in New Zealand? I obviously understand that, geopolitical and economic situations, they keep changing, and that's ever evolving, and that's something that is not in our control. But all in all, larger picture, in the grander scheme of things, is New Zealand a good place to choose if you are looking to start?
So see, it's starting with a disclaimer that, or not a disclaimer, but probably want this point to hone in, almost like a footnote, that going abroad to study is no assurance or guarantee by that country that you will get a job there. The understanding of the deal is that we have a institution that's really high in quality.
Right.
You can't find it in your home country, and you have chosen us.
Right.
We will provide you with that education because that's the offer letter that we've given you. After that, you use those skill sets to build your life back in your home country and add value. But if in process you find something in our home country which sits within the policy framework of the country, you are more than welcome to be here. So that's what the arrangement is. Now, I know most people want to look at it from a return on investment or building a better life.
Right.
The macroeconomics of the world right now is such that, yes, there is a slowdown in some parts of the world. New Zealand is no pariah from that. It has to absorb some of those shocks. Although we've done pretty well in terms of our tariff negotiations with the US, which happens to be our third largest trading partner, if I'm not wrong. So it matters. Overall, the economy has always been resilient. When you talk about number of opportunities for fresh graduates, if you try and compare the data, which I have not, but I don't think so I'll be too far off if I would say that current data in India about the number of graduates coming out and the number of jobs available and the gap that exists, New Zealand would be better off in that perspective. So that's one. Second is, when you finish your program, it's just not about you finishing. What have you done through those programs, through that tenure? Just stuff that I spoke to you about right now. You don't get purely, don't always get a job purely on the basis of what program you've done and what grades you have. New Zealand is also, humans live there, and humans have a nature where they want to collaborate with each other. They want to build relationship with each other. So sometimes it's also who you know rather than what you know. Just like it happens in India and other parts of the world. If you have to struggle a bit, actually you get a bit sour and a bit bitter, and it comes out differently. But if you look at it from a positive context and hang in there, just like you would do if you were in your home country. So if you had a graduate degree and you were looking for a job in India and you did not get it in the first 6 months or so, you could go lashing on the government and the state of the economy, etc. But eventually you would struggle it out and you'll find something. New Zealand is the same case. And to answer your question, will I live there, build my life there, retire there, invest there? The short answer is yes, because I'm doing all of that.
Correct. Yeah. Great. So there are opportunities. It's just you need to know how to find them and tag them.
No, you need to work hard on it. You need to not just find and tap into that. You need to recognize what that opportunity is, and to be able to get that opportunity, what are the things that I need to do. So if you want to make a century, you have to survive some overs to be there on the pitch to make the century, right? Don't prepare for a 2020 and expect a century or test match, 200 runs, whatever. Uh, um, you prepare yourself for the longer inning, and then you go with the same stamina, skill sets, patience.
Keep going.
And consistency.
And there might be ducks and there will be innings where you'll be bowled at
Absolutely.
your team runs.
Absolutely.
Keep trying until you reach the century.
Yeah, I love this cricketing analogy because that is life.
So talking about cricket now, what's the cricket culture in New Zealand like? And what do as international students or even after? What are the sorts of recreation or leisure activities that you as a student did, or there are other students who are doing that?
Yeah, see, New Zealand is world renowned for its breathtaking landscape and scenic views. Kiwis in general are very outdoorsy. They have an active life, which means that, especially in the city where I live in Christchurch, just in our backyard, you have tramping, so trekking, basically. You can go for trekking. We can go to a beach. If it's winter, drive out for 2 hours and you're on the mountaintop with snow on it. So it's a very active lifestyle. And so people have the opportunity to get involved in those active lifestyle. It's very famous for bungee jumping, adventure sports, mountain bike riding and things like that. And as far as sports are concerned, rugby remains number one sport above cricket, I'd say, but cricket is up there. The Black Caps are very famous and renowned around the world. And most international students, especially from South Asia, they get involved in the cricketing culture. They've got, they don't have the street cricket culture that we have especially in Mumbai, because we've got so much of space over there. So there are proper games. There are big grounds and pitches. There are also indoor places where you can have indoor. Yeah. So whether you want to practice by yourself and the machine throws balls at you, or whether you want to have a small group and play indoor cricket in winters. So it's a very big sporty country.
Right.
And cricket is one of the popular sports, if not the popular sport. And it's very easy to run into cricketers over there or celebrities and have a chat. And if they like it, they'll also spend time and have a coffee with you. Oh, as happened with me after finishing from University of Canterbury, I actually worked with few New Zealand cricket legends. My final interview was with Stephen Fleming.
Wow.
And Brendan McCullum.
Right.
Sir Richard Hadley, who lives in Christchurch. So does Stephen Fleming, was our patron.
Right.
I'm still in touch with all of them. I'm decent friends with Ejaz Patel, who is originally from Bombay, but lives in Auckland. Ross Taylor has recently launched his own wine. So that connect of theirs through IPL, through cricket, through the diaspora, and they're always part of our big business delegation also. So cricket is a big binder between these two countries.
Well, it's obviously like your story is so inspiring. Like a boy from Mumbai and then going all the way to New Zealand and like getting, like you said, your last interview was with Stephen Fleming. So, it's a sort of exposure that you get just by choosing and doing the right things at the right time can actually make your life and, your career as well. So, like you correctly said that, it's all about recognizing the opportunity and then working towards it relentlessly. Up, making sure you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. So,
Absolutely. I think you just have to keep at it,
right.
and you have to be focused. I like putting blinders when I know where I have to go and what it takes, right, to get there. Put your blinders, because there's so much of distraction nowadays. It always was. I don't want to sound like an old person, but social media, reels, what other people are doing, their success, comparing their success to our success, and then getting into that whole negative spin is like, oh, where's my life going? I think the best thing when you're in that phase where you are in a transition or a waiting period for your next big opportunity, just put your blinders. Don't look at anybody else. Don't compare yourself. Just keep doing the work,
And then you reach your goal.
you won't even realize when you hit your goal,
Right.
and you pass the goal post, and you love this putting your blinder and blinkers approach so much that from there on, the confidence that you develop looking at anyone else, their success will not intimidate you or in any way make you feel any lesser.
Right. What is one experience that comes first to your mind when we talk about New Zealand? Like one incident or one experience that, really defined New Zealand for you? If you can recall.
God say there are plenty, but if I was to break it into like, in these 14, 15 years, break it into like one defining moment in the first 3 years, so and so forth. I'd start with my first impression of the country. I landed in the country, and normally our experience with an Indian passport and our own immigration has always been like, have I done something wrong? What's going to happen?
Yeah, when you're suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're just doing their work, it's just the whole phenomena of immigration as such, and the stories that you hear. Me landing in New Zealand, going up to the immigration, and the immigration person actually having a casual conversation with me was unbelievable, because I thought this is a trap.
Yeah.
How can someone be so nice and casual?
When they're trying to
Yeah.
take some information out of
Exactly. So, person, while I went there, I handed my passport. The person was scanning or doing something in the system, started to ask me, oh, so, the regular question, what brings you to New Zealand? And I said, "Oh, I've come here to study as an international student." I was like, oh, wow, where? Said University of Canterbury. I was like, well done, because University of Canterbury has a good reputation. What course? And I said, so and so. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic, and it's not really common in the way we perceive education and how much importance Indian families or Asian families give to education, where you have to be a graduate and then postgraduate. With locals, that's not something that happens with every family. So they look at it with respect.
Right.
And within few seconds, my passport was stamped, given to me, and was like, good on you, mate. Well done, and all the best.
Right.
And that stayed with me. First person that I speak to when I land there, that also a government official, that also from immigration, and so friendly and so welcoming. So that was my first instant. Quite a few things happened along the way. The friendliness of people, they always have time to chat.
Right.
Doesn't matter how busy they are. And I've developed the same habit. Now, when I try to do that in Bombay, people are in such rush that they want to just get out.
It's jaldi bole.
Exactly. What is he trying to? So then I have to just switch off, because there's something called as switching codes.
Right.
Switching codes is basically people of different ethnicity and international experience. When they go into other culture, they switch codes, which means they become them.
Right.
They seamlessly move between two cultures to experience, and then they have to forget what they were. So I kind of like do that when I'm here. So those niceness and people always having time, university staff, university's professor always have time for you. They're well planned. So if you have any questions, you want to talk to your professor, it's scheduled. They have a specific time in the week where they meet students. You book an appointment, you have your time undivided. So I think that was the other university style experience.
Right.
And within the first 6 months, I ran into the Governor General of New Zealand, the former Governor General of New Zealand now. Casually, someone introduced me without explaining that he is the equivalent of the president of what in India, and had a great chat. And only after the person left, I found out that he's the Governor General, former Governor General, and I was taken aback, you know. But I still maintain great relations with him till today, and he was a great mentor to me. Meeting out of the three prime ministers that I've seen while since the time I've been in New Zealand, meeting with two of them,
Right.
meeting with the current one multiple times, and he knows me by my first name, which is an honor. These things are just not possible anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Where you get so much. If you work hard,
Right.
you get access to.
The ease of access is
Yes.
real.
Yes. You have to work hard like any other country. You have to prove yourself to be at that level. But once you're there, it's very normal. It's casual. It's human to human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Sudeep, you have recently authored a book.
Yeah.
Oh, if you could just tell us what it is about and how did you think of writing this book?
I've been weaving my book story through the podcast all along, very sheepishly. My book is basically my own story. It is in almost like a New Zealand biography. It talks about my journey from Mumbai to Christchurch. It is a story, and the way it's written, it's almost like storytelling. The incidents that some of the incidents I mention about those incidents in the book. But what's different about this from a regular storybook is that at the end of every story, there is a practical guide for students to follow. So my first chapter starts with motivation. We spoke a lot about universities, ranking programs, etc., the right courses. But something that I touched upon earlier around experiencing your own ideas and then being sure that these ideas is exactly what I want to follow, right? Which is basically your motivation. I write about how a student should be clear about their motivation, and that's the starting point. Similarly, going to the right people for advice. How do you reach those people? What are the traits?
Right.
What does separate Mr. Jani from someone else?
Right.
Picking up those signals. How do you prepare yourself for your journey abroad? And then there's part two. So it's basically my story with practical tips and tools for any international student to follow. Yeah. And basically everything from the day I decided I want to go to New Zealand. So stuff that I mentioned about my first interaction with New Zealand University, all those conversations are mentioned there, but also reflection. So the chapter that follows the main chapter is called Reflections. That talks about practicality of international education.
Right. Talking about reflections, I think that's another aspect about New Zealand New Zealand education system, which we kind of see quite often, but it is somewhat lacking here in India is critical thinking and reflections, right? Because in India, students are not taught about reflections and how what they've studied would actually, impact their real life. And, so that is one aspect is what I feel personally is that, students should start learning and, need to start penning down their thoughts, how they feel, what they are feeling, why they are feeling. And it helps them in the long run, because there are certain professions that require you to have some sort of critical thinking or reflections as a part of it. Because, for example, like I've studied New Zealand immigration advisors course from Toyoma Institute, and as a part of being trained to become a licensed immigration advisor, we were also taught to pause and think about what your actions would do your clients, for example, and how it would affect them, or how are you feeling about certain things. So it's I think that is one quality that Indians or students from South Asia should kind of develop before, or even during while they're studying in New Zealand, and I think that would help them a lot in certain ways, because in our education system, not a lot of weightage is given on the fact that students, what are they feeling, how are they feeling, and is there something that they need to learn more? So that is one aspect of education or the education system that differs from between India and New Zealand. According to you, is there anything that a student who's going from South Asia to New Zealand that they need to learn or they need to gain some skills before they reach there? Could be something as simple as their soft skills or their communication skills or even English language skills for that matter. So what according to you is one thing that would, no, I wouldn't say exactly make or break, but it would benefit the students largely?
Yeah. So it's always combination of things put together. There is a make or break. I personally feel it's a make or break. So before even getting to critical thinking, soft skills, etc., the first thing that the student should work really hard on, if they still haven't had that experience, is to be able to manage their own life by themselves. By which I mean time management. And when I say time management, when you get up, the first thing you need to do is make your own bed, okay? Fold your own blanket. Make your own breakfast. Learn how to make dal, khichdi, or whatever your staple food is. Take cookery classes, right? Do your own cleaning. Start this 3 months before you travel abroad. Right? Take all those responsibilities from your mom and maids. And in between that, do everything else that you were doing or be doing. Yeah. So what will happen is that now you will know you have less time, which means that you will start prioritizing, faffing around with friends, going for a movie, going to a cafe, or just doing nothing and sitting and scrolling on reels will be prioritized. Some of those time will be prioritized on these things. Because this is the single most thing that will make or break your experience and your journey in any country, in any developed country, including New Zealand. Once your time management is right, for which most universities, including University of Canterbury, runs separate workshops as a part of the academic skill development. Once you've got that, then you can start focusing on increasing your capability or habit, if you don't have one, of reading. Reading and writing. You have no idea how much impact reading makes on your writing. Just listening or watching will not really make that level of, at least for me, changes in your writing ability. Because in New Zealand, even in today's date where some universities do accept you referencing AI and whatever not, you still need writing capability. So to be able to critically think is one thing, but managing to get your points and your messages communicated in the right way is called academic writing skills. So that's the second part. From there, you come on to soft skills. Correct. Learning about Kiwi culture. Just, New Zealand is a bicultural country, just like India is multicultural in its own way. You've got English, which is the mainstream language, but you also have the indigenous language, the Maori language, which is used a lot as part of your daily language. Maori words, just like how we use English, we throw in Hindi words, there are Maori words over there. So understand the basic Maori salutations, just respect, knowing, could be greetings, and things that culturally you should be respectful for. That's another thing. Soft skills is something, it's not country specific, but it's communication skill. I am a big fan, and I'm going to advocate on this really hard. I'm already doing it. Every single course should have a part of humanities embedded in it. Because if you're not studying humanities subject, your soft skills, your speaking ability, your writing ability will never improve. My first degree was in engineering. I would not have been able to articulate myself as well as I do today if I was just stopped there. Then I studied business. I was only speaking business language. So you need to have some bit of those soft skills, study arts, right? And build that overall personality. How do you make up? First presentation was nerve-wracking for me. Speaking in front of a class, people from different countries, you are speaking in a foreign language. You're looking at them who are natives. It's just like someone coming from abroad and trying to speak Hindi and give a presentation in Hindi to us. All right. Now, we might not be thinking about their language. We might find that actually really nice and cute.
Yeah, fascination.
Yeah, but they are thinking, am I saying this correctly or not? So you have to go through, you have to practice all of those things in your mind, in front of the mirror. And then last but not the least, something that you really can't do without an external support, which is your academic skills. How to read, how to write, what are the expectations of New Zealand universities. So if someone is going for a master's program, please understand, and you should tell all your students that they look at your undergraduate degree and they accept you knowing, thinking, and putting you accountable that you have those skill sets already that you're required to study the master's program. Not that they have to build that skill sets in you for you to be able to study masters. That's called exactly. That's called foundation. Correct. And bridging. That's a different course altogether. But that expectation is there. And if you don't come with that level of knowledge and skills, then you'll either struggle there or you'll have to do extra courses, which are also available. But if you do it here, nothing like it.
Better, much better.
Absolute.
Great. And so if you can tell us about your book, what it's called, and how we can buy that book if any of our viewers are interested.
Yeah. So as I told you, I've embedded the book already in this podcast through our conversation. So the title of my book is Good on You, Mate. The Kiwi Chronicles of an International Student. And by now, you and your viewers must already know where the title comes from. My first experience in New Zealand was immigration.
Action.
Exactly. That's where it comes from. My book is available on all major online platforms in both ebook and print on demand.
Right.
It's been published and released in New Zealand. So in New Zealand, it's available in most of the physical outlets as well. But for international people who want to buy, Amazon is the easiest. So if you go to the Amazon India website and you go to the book section and you look for Good on You, Mate by Sandeep Sharma, you'll get both options, ebooks and print on demand. Yeah, it's simple, a click away.
Great. So no discount codes, coupons.
Discount codes for you. So I'm going to be leaving as part of this conversation. I am going to be leaving some physical copies, which are in print right now, and it's going to be delivered in the next hour. So I couldn't get it with me here. But your students who are going to University of Canterbury will have a special signed copy of mine delivered to you through the University of Canterbury's local representative, which you can hand to as a pre-departure gift to students who are choosing to go to University of Canterbury.
Absolutely. That is wonderful, and that's very kind of you as well. So
That's the least I could do.
And thank you overall for sharing your insights. It's been absolutely awe-inspiring for me and for our viewers as well, I'm sure. So thank you so much for coming and sharing us your journey and your experiences, and it's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks so much. The pleasure is all mine. If your students want to follow my journey about the book, they can follow me on Instagram on goodonyourmate_NZ. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn, follow my company, North Star Global Advisory. And I'm always happy to interact and answer any of their questions if they mention in the message that they have come through Mr. John.
Absolutely. So if you want more such videos, and if you are also keen on understanding what New Zealand has to offer as a study destination, don't forget to press the bell icon and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.